Good evening to those watching. Welcome to the council community meeting. We're here with some of our councillors from the Chippewas of Nawash Unceded First Nation, and they'll be speaking to the various committees that they sit on and the work that's been conducted in their mandates so far. So on our panel tonight, we have Councillor Guy Elliott, Councillor Sydney Nadjuan, Councillor Martha Panonica, and Councillor Solomon King. And I'm Michael Johnston, the Chippewas Nawash Communications Manager. So the way that we're going to work our meeting tonight is that we'll name the committees, and then we'll introduce the councillors on that committee, and they can talk somewhat about their work on the committee. And we'll do this through all the committees that are represented here tonight. And after all that, we'll take any questions from the attendees. So for the attendees, those that are watching on the Zoom webinar, down at the bottom of your screen, you'll see a section that says Q&A. So if you take your mouse down to the bottom of your screen, click on that, and you'll be able to type in questions that you want to ask. So during the councillors' comments, if a question occurs to you and you want to write it down to get answered later, you can type it in right when that question occurs to you, and it'll be saved there, and we'll get to that when the councillors have finished speaking. So without further ado, we'll jump right into it. And so the first committee that we're going to speak to tonight is Economic Development, and Councillor Elliott and Councillor King are both members of that committee. Gentlemen.
Yep, thank you, Michael. And I just want to express how happy I am to have this forum to be able to provide an update to our community. I'll start off by saying that a decision was made early on in the term of this council to go into a different direction than what we normally would have done in terms of economic development in the committee setting. And a lot of the rationale behind that was due to the fact that over the last 20 years we've had an economic development committee. We called it economic development, but essentially we were managing programs and services, and there was a strong feeling based on a document that was produced by Deloitte back in 2018, 2019, in which they surveyed the community on economic development concerns. And a lot of the members were canvassed by way of sessions in the community center, and they identified employment and training and education and sustainable jobs as being some priorities. So in following through with those initial works, it was just a gradual and necessary step to begin creating an economic development corporation, which many communities across Turtle Island have done successfully for many years. And knowing that we have a strong community with members who are engaged in business, both in the community and elsewhere, we knew that this is something that could be achieved by working diligently at that. So it took a number of months to identify a legal team that could assist us. We engaged with them and came to develop an understanding by way of a document that's referred to as a retainer agreement, where it outlined the steps that would be required to get the corporation up and running. So with that, we began to formulate an interim economic development board or an interim board, which comprises myself, Councilor King, Councilor Panonica, and Councilor Saunders. We would meet, maybe once a month and discuss, because this hasn't been done before in the community at this scale, what the terms of reference would be, all the while bringing information back to the full council for discussion. We did host a community update, consultation meeting, whatever you want to call it, where we took questions from the community. I can tell you another meeting is going to be held shortly before the term ends. And based on the feedback that we've received, which has been very positive, and supported by Chief and Council, the current plan is to leverage a commitment made by Council to fund 3 years of the startup and operations costs of the Economic Development Corporation, with accessing government programming dollars, thereby allowing us to hire an executive director or a CEO type of a position, which will be overseen by a brand new board of directors. You may have noticed through your communications, Michael, that a call out for board members has been issued. So we're currently accepting call them applications, I guess, or letters of interest from community members who wish to join this Economic Development Corporation, which is named NAWASH Investments. So that's currently happening right now. Once the window closes, which is July 5th, we'll open up the applications and as an interim board, discuss that with the full council and have an onboarding process begin. At that time, this new interim or this brand new board will begin to set the strategy and direction for NAWASH Investments, identifying goals and priorities. Some of the key areas that we focused on as an interim board will be to focus on the development of Hope Bay, which is an amazing piece of property that has been sitting vacant for almost 10 years. As well, we'd like to develop a strategy for commercialization opportunities at the Highway 6 property. And the final thing is getting involved in the possible opportunities that may come with the commercial aspect of the TC Energy's pump storage project, if it is approved by the community to go forward. So at a very high level, that's an update on the Economic Development Corporation.
Did you have any additional comments that you wanted to add, Councillor King?
I was waiting for that introduction. So this is Solomon King. I'm councillor in NAWASH. This is my first term. And so I've been playing a supporting role on the ECDev portfolio. And Guy Whitten has been heading it up. And all that information that he has shared with you. And there's a few reasons why I myself wanted to become a part of the ECDev portfolio, was looking at our membership and looking at the possible opportunities that have surrounded us. And we are just now getting a chance to participate. And I think that I feel the idea of us participating is long overdue. So I think that was my initial interest in supporting the ECDEV process. And so, for example, Giewiden was talking about the Highway 6 property, and it will be housing the SON offices. So, and then there's a lot of potential future use. Like, there's just examples are like possible a gas station, maybe a tourist operation base. But we could actually use this not just as a commercial aspect, but we could also use it as an educational aspect, because if we open something like a tourist operation base, so we could have buses traveling throughout Nawash and the territory to share our history and to share, the land and everything about it. So, it's partially an educational opportunity. And I think that's one thing we should not lose sight of going forward. And also with the ECDEV, developing opportunities for the Nawash community, because in the end, well, in the future, we also have to really start looking at supporting our community, our infrastructure, our capital, our lands, education. And this is just the beginning, because there's so many things that are tied into that. And if we look a little bit forward and start having those discussions now, we can actually be ahead of the game in 10, 15 years from now. So that's about all I want to add in with the economic development. And thanks.
Thank you, Councillor King. So let's move right along to our next committee, and that's the Housing, Lands and Membership Committee. And for this one, we're coming right back to you, Councillor King.
Well, hold on a second, Michael. Councilor Panonica just joined us, and I'd like for her to speak on this file as well, because she's played a very important role with this and the Highway 6 property, because I do see that there's a question that's in relation to that.
Yes, of
Martha?
course.
Go ahead, Martha.
Hi, yeah, thank you. Councillor Martha Panonica. So I was part of the interim board for economic development to establish the governance framework for the Nawash Investments General Partner. So those included, we'll be looking at the operational policies, the bylaws, and the procedures for the creation of the independent board. So part of the Highway 6 property had to do with the restructuring of the SON office, where it was identified that more space for the staff needed to be attained, and someplace that was centrally located between Saugeen and Nawash. So when the house became available in Wyerton, it was a perfect opportunity to meet that goal, that recommendation under the BDC report. So that's one of the reasons that we purchased it, but it also had acreage there that could be developed for business purposes. And that's one of the things that we got excited about as the Economic Development Corporation interim board. So that's how it's tied together with that. But as economic development, we also looked at the small business grants this year. So there was about 35 people that were awarded grants to establish a small business. So some of those you'll probably see within the community, but that's one of the things that we worked on as well. And then as Saul and Giewiden mentioned, the building up Highway 6, it will be a slow development. It won't be us, we're the interim board. So the call for the board of directors is going out shortly, or if it's not already out there. So if you're interested in applying to be a board of director to see economic development prosper for the benefit of Nawash, then by all means put your name forward. So that's all I'd like to say for that. Thank you.
And I'll just follow up, if I may, just on the question that was asked, and maybe I'll just read out the question, Michael, if that's fine. Is that answer live? Okay. It says, is the Highway 6 property bought in conjunction with Saugeen? Would economic development, would ECDEV Corp Board direct the activities at Highway 6 property? So I think, Martha, answered the second half of that question. The first half, just to, I guess, set the record straight, there was a plan in place to purchase that property with Saugeen. As joint council had discussed it a number of times over the years. A resolution was passed in 2019 to engage in that process, and I was tasked with that. At the last hour, though, unfortunately, Saugeen decided they did not wish to pursue that purchase. So Nawash Council agreed to purchase that property and have it parked with the Economic Development Corporation, which was being created simultaneously. So hopefully that answers your question, Tina.
Okay, so this is Solomon again. So we were talking about lands, housing, and capital. So it is it's quite the portfolio, and this is the one that I've actually spent a lot of time working on, and I believe Sid is the alternate. So I'm just going to get right into it. So when I first came onto council and we actually started looking at the portfolios, because my background's in construction, I had a natural sort of direction to go that way. So under the capital, we have Bill and Caleb as the manager and the assistant manager, and they're doing a really great job over there. The roads department, we work with council and with the capital department and everyone, and we purchased a new plow and garbage truck. And I believe that actually half of that money has been recouped. So, it's that was a bright spot. And, we're looking forward to this summer closing a few open projects that have been ongoing. So, for example, like drafting a culvert policy plan for members. The recycling program has been implemented by the roads department, the blue boxes, and the pickup schedules. And that's always something great to see. The maintenance on the roads, the cleaning up of the road allowances, and these, and just recently over the last year, there's been a lot more potholes, and the roads haven't been doing too well because of all the rain and everything else. So, the roads has actually been picking up, and they've been doing some grading right now. So there's something to look at. I haven't had a chance to talk to Bill. We're going to finish the wharf, because there's a few things that need to be completed over there. Like, for example, the lighting. There's some issues with the ladders, and there's issues with the actual standpipe that used to be connected in there. So all that's going to be taken care of. Also with the bumpers, for example, for when to be installed this year. So actually finished this year. And we also have the wellness center. And there's over a year, there's been some mold issues. So we're working on resolving those. We have a consultant that we're working with. So we're doing tenders and a scope of work. And that's actually moving along pretty well now. And after that, we'll have an engineering consultant in to inspect and recommend upgrades, so that it's a mixed residential commercial, because it's housing the wellness program, which does a lot in the community, and I believe we have 4 different programs in there. And also we have the street lights, which are being upgraded to LEDs, and that's slated to be completed this summer. And I believe a lot of the equipment and materials to finish those are actually in transit or they've already been ordered and we're just waiting for them to be delivered. So there's a little bit with the COVID and everything. I think that's kind of slowed down that process. Also with, what else do we have here? Also with, we have lands plan, which is headed up by Larissa. And that has been moving along. We actually just had an online community meeting last week. And what they're planning on doing in the near future is setting up 1 or 2 in-community, in-person meetings with social distancing in place, of course, for members that don't have access to basically computers and the internet. So we'll have that in the community in the near future. So the lands plan will have everyone's having a chance to have their say and, you know, have some discussions about it also. And with the housing, was it lands, capital, and housing? Was housing on that portfolio also, Mike?
It is.
Okay, sorry, I just got a little bit
Yeah.
Okay, so with the housing also.
It's called the housing land.
Okay, so on housing, I'm actually the alternate liaison. So I've attended the last 2 meetings, and they will be building 4 Habitat for Humanity houses this year. And I believe that the chief will be announcing and doing the kickoff this weekend on Saturday. I'm not exactly sure the specific time. Maybe somebody can fill me in there, but I believe it is this Saturday. So that's going to be the start of some new housing developments in Kaikaikanong. And also we have the tiny homes project, which has been headed in a lot of ways by Martha and Nick. So in that aspect, I'm not really involved, but, you know, I know Martha and Nick have been doing work on this, and they've been doing a lot of, you know, moving that forward. And also with, I believe this year, there will be 2 builds. One's actually has the foundation, and they're working on right beside the old Son building, which is over by the Madoki Crescent. So there's one being built right there now. The foundation's being put up and everything. And then I believe another one's going to be delivered in the next couple of months. And then there will also be some spaces made in the park for 2 tiny homes. And I believe, Martha, you might have a little more information on exactly where these tiny homes are coming and where they're actually going to be, their final spaces where they're going to be built, or where they're going to be set in the foundations. Because I know the ones in the park are going to be temporary until they move them to permanent spots. But I've also learned that we actually have 3 more that will possibly be coming, but yet to be confirmed. So this is all the information I have. Get from there and add in anything else, because I know you're the alternate for this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Moving on to our next committee, the Capital Committee, rather, and the representative for that is Councillor Sydney Najwan.
So I've been working with Solomon on capital issues. We're kind of he's taken a lot of the lead in the wellness center, getting the wellness center up and running again. And we've both been working with Bill on the street lighting and whatnot. But also under the capital project, we have a $4 million culvert, ditching and culvert plan in place that will be starting. I'm not sure when we're going to actually start. Should be starting very soon. The money is secured, and the the ditching profiles and everything have all been mapped out. So it's just a matter of getting that project started, and it's starting up in the Niashing area and coming down. I think it ends at the Taylor's Corner down by the harbor. So that's in play. And then, as Saul has said, the wharf will be should be finished up very soon, getting the bumpers on and whatnot. We talked about the street lighting, the wharf. I don't know if I'm missing anything. We're a bit of a challenge right at the moment with keeping the current water treatment plant going. So we have reached out to some other companies hoping to get some replacement pumps and whatnot in place while we figure out the end for the new water treatment. So it's kind of 2 years out. So we need to keep our water running, and we're stretched to the max at the moment. We're leaking as much as we're saving water. So it's really an important piece of the puzzle to keep the water treatment going while we start replacing infrastructure with new piping and whatnot. So that's to do with the water treatment. And then the water treatment itself, it has gone from a $22 million project to a $62 million project. And not all the monies for that project have been secured as of yet. We're hoping to hear some favorable news in the next week or so. We thought maybe we'd hear about that by now, but that hasn't happened. So we're working with INAC, trying to get these monies secure. We're at 99% design is completed, and we're ready to start the project anytime INAC is going to put the seal of approval and say that the money's there. So that's an ongoing project, an ongoing struggle to get that going. What else we got? So I have been working with Larissa on two different projects. One is Nochumwaning under lands, and that Nochumwaning, we have now purchased all but two of the properties that had been put together by Ontario Heritage Trust, and Ontario Heritage Trust is holding those properties for us in trust. So at some later date, we will be purchasing those properties to complete Nochumwaning, where we currently have a little bit of a land issue with Nochumwaning, and that's it's all legal. It's in legal with Ontario Heritage Trust, because they're actually holding the land as owners right now. So that there's probably court in play in the near future here, and but we have been moving that along successfully for the last 3 years now that I've been on the project. I guess that covers pretty much. Under working with Larissa, I've had fairly extensive input in the land use study, and that she's been spearheading it and bringing all the parties together, meeting and whatnot. I believe there has been a survey or 2 surveys out to the community so far. So there will probably be another 2 in the very near future. And they're coming along as scheduled to have that land use plan in place by sometime in the fall, I believe, is the date for that. So I think that pretty much covers everything under capital. I don't know if you want me to continue on with some of the land claim stuff, Michael?
I think that would be great information, Councillor, if you have it.
Okay, so under land claims, as I said, I'm working with Tony Scano and Larissa with the Notre Warning. And then under the joint councils, I've been working with Doran Ritchie, and we're trying to get settlements done with the townships. We've been trying to take the townships off our plate for some time now, because it makes it a much simpler process for the court case once the ruling comes down, if all the townships are dealt with separately rather than having to be part of a court decision. So that's ongoing. We're expecting a decision from the court very soon. We have no definite date as of yet, but the court has notified us that it will be soon. So we think we're sitting pretty good to hear that decision. We have Treaty 82 has been put back on the table, and it hasn't been in place since I believe about 96. So we were having back in 96, we were having trouble keeping the province at the table to deal with Treaty 82. We're still missing a half-acre burial site. We have the province has come back to the table, but they're only wanting to support funding for 1 year at a time, which is creating a little bit of a problem on trying to get this resolved. So we've been working the last 2 years with the province to try and come to a resolution for Treaty 82. And we had Bill Fitzgerald do an extensive report on the missing half-acre. So we have 2 possible plots in the Owen Sound area that are expected to be those burial plots, but we also need the ground penetrating radar in order to make sure that we have the right pieces of property. So that's ongoing. We also had a legal land surveyor mapped out all the shore road allowances in Owen Sound. So as soon as his report is finished, which should be very soon, then we will probably be sitting down and starting a negotiation with the province on those shore road allowances. And also with Treaty 82 is the public squares. So that's another issue that legal wants us to just put in a specific claim for the public squares, which probably we will be doing. That's not finalized, or that request hasn't been made as of yet. So we're waiting on some of this report from from the land surveyor. So that covers Treaty 82, Treaty 72, and Nochewaning. So that's, I guess also I'm not sure how aware people are that we have settled with one of the townships, Grey County, and we have secured 296, I believe, 296 acres of prime forest that's joining Mountain Lake. So we have come to settlement with Grey County, and we have two of the other counties at the table right now. We're not at full resolution, but hope to have resolution to those two in a fairly short order. So I think that covers everything to do with land claims as of right now. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. For our next committee update, we're going to turn to Councilor Panonica to give us an update on the Health Committee.
Thank you, Michael. So I'm the alternate on the Health Committee, and there hasn't been much interaction between council and the health center other than the pandemic. They've been the lead for the pandemic and developing the policies for staff and the consents and for people to enter the community and for vaccination clinics and things like that. I guess the biggest change in health is the staffing. So we have a new health director, which Cynthia stepped into, Cynthia Porter. And then so leaving her position vacant, we have new CHR and we have harm reduction. We also, we're looking for a NADAP, which is changed to mental health and addictions worker. So that position is still vacant and much needed because mental health is a big issue right now with the pandemic and the drug crisis, and also just overall for children that have been isolated at home from their friends. But we do have mental health workers, but we do need the NADAP worker. And we also need PSWs. Sorry, I'm babysitting too, so it's kind of my time is being pulled here and there, but yeah. So health continues to operate, and the wellness center moved into the health center because their building was undergoing renovations. So health is still busy, even though we haven't been involved with committee meetings or the day-to-day operation, but services are still ongoing. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Next on our committee list is the Education Committee, and we have the alternate liaison, Councillor King, who will speak to that one.
Okay, so we're talking about the education. So education is, it has a lot of separation from the council itself because yeah, well, actually they do work on their own, and they bring forward recommendations to us. So education is actually is looked after by the board that they have over there, and what they do is they actually go through their meetings and then they bring that forward to band council. So I'm the alternate on that, and the thing with the education is it's, you know, we've done a little bit of revamping the policy. We've moved forward with actually bringing more programs or mini departments, like basically certain employees under their umbrella. So there's been a transfer to that educational department for some of the employees, and also it's been quite the year because everyone had to deal with the whole COVID situation and the idea of like, oh, we're going to do remote learning and we're going to figure out how we're going to move forward. And I think education did a really good job. You know, they actually stayed on top of it and they moved forward, and, you know, with a little bit of caution, and then they slowly open things up. And so they're moving along really well. As far as I'm concerned, they're doing a good job. And if anybody has anything else to add to the education portfolio, you're welcome to add in. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. We're going to go back to Councillor Panonica now to update us on a few committees that she is busy with, and that is the Occupational Health and Safety Committee as one. The Huronia Area Aboriginal Management Board is 2, and the last one she'll update us on is the Aboriginal Labor Force Development Circle. So that's a long list, Councillor, and I'll leave it in your capable hands.
Okay, thank you again. I just wanted to answer Tina's question about the health center not helping the elders in the community as their needs change, and will home visits resume soon? So as the restrictions under the pandemic let up, I'm sure that home visits will continue, but the home and community care program always continued with their programming for the seniors, such as bingo and different things virtually, but I know that they also did home visits with them. So I'm hoping that there'll be more contact as pandemic lets up, but we'll watch and see for that. So you're asking me about occupational health and safety, which is health and safety. So that committee is comprised of a representative from each program. Each staff sends a representative to that. And we haven't had any formal meetings either, but the president, or the, I guess it's the chair, was Pam Linklater, and she's back in the community now. So hopefully she'll pick that up where she left off. But the vice chair was Devin Wilhelm. So he would take all the reports. If there was an incident, he'd take it. And they, as a committee, they would work on resolving those issues or identifying what needs to be repaired and things like that. So it's an internal process between programs and staff, and it's still ongoing, and it always has been. And I can't speak to anything specific incidents because there is confidentiality involved too. So. And as for Huronia, as you know, they're building the tiny home that Saul had mentioned. And it's not actually a tiny home, as Tina pointed out. It's called a single family dwelling, which would be a couple with no children or a single parent with one child. So that asset will go to housing, and they'll decide who's going to live in that home once it's completed. But Huronia is building one in Saugeen and one at Nawash under the Youth Employment and Skills Strategy, which is for youth under the age of 30. So those two homes were built by the youth. And then we will be having another construction and plumbing program for any age, which is under the Ministry of Labor, Training and Skills Development. So 15 participants will be doing that, and they're divided between Nawash and Saugeen, as well as a driver from the communities to drive them to Georgian College for their in-class. So we're looking at building a 2-bedroom home for the community once the material costs, like the cost estimate, is approved by council. So we have to see what that's going to be with the increase in lumber and everything. We're thinking that it's going to be quite high, but Saugeen has decided to build 2 more tiny homes similar to the one that we just built, and Nawash is going to look at a 2-bedroom home. So Huronia is tasked with providing training and employment opportunities for Nawash and Saugeen, and they have 6 employees right now, so they have a full complement of employees. That's 3 band members from Nawash are employed there and 2 from Saugeen. And then our LDM coordinator is Stella Palissy. And they work on targeted wage subsidy, getting people into school if they want to go back to school. They provide 1 year certificate programming or the last year of education. So they only fund 1 year, not the whole 3 years if you're going or for higher level education. But they work in conjunction with Aboriginal Labor Force Development Canada, who is the overseer. They provide the funding through them. The funds flow through Aboriginal Labor Force Development, which is based in Tandanaga. And so Nick actually sits as the board member for ALFDC. And they're the ones that take our LDM, which is Stella, her reports, and they all come together. There's different LDMs throughout the province, and they all come and they support each other and provide their reports. And once in a while, they'll approve if somebody from NAWASH is living in their area, they'll fund them and negotiate a repayment, stuff like that. Like ALFDC is governed by a board of directors too. So Steve Williams is the chair of that committee, and he's just very helpful in that regard. I'm not sure what else I can say about ALFDC because I don't sit on that committee, but I do know that they oversee Huronia. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. And let's go back to the top of our lineup here. We have Councillor Guaden Elliott, who is the alternate liaison for the Tecumseh Development Corporation. I know we probably covered some of this ground with the economic development discussion earlier, but perhaps there's more that you want to add there, Councillor.
Yeah, I'll just give a brief update on that. There hasn't been any. They would normally have an annual general meeting or an AGM, which I attended. Essentially, they do a review of, how the program has successfully helped and assisted applicants. I think they were busy during COVID and providing COVID relief funding for businesses. But at this time, there's not much to update in terms of that file itself.
All right, thanks for that. We're going to go right back to Councilor Panonica again for one more update on the Native Horizons.
Thank you, Michael. Yes, the Native Horizons lost their building back in 2019 to a fire. So it burned down, and they rented a place on the other side of Six Nations to do administration, but they did this past year offer virtual treatment to people that were interested in doing that. And they were just approved this year in April for over $5 million to rebuild. So they will be rebuilding a new building to offer treatment programs again. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Now, let's go to Councillor King for any additional comments you wanted to make around Hope Bay.
Oh, that one caught me off guard. Okay, so Hope Bay, we've been, as a economic development sort of ad hoc committee, we've been looking at some of the possible ideas and direction we could possibly move this in, because the Hope Bay project, it has a half decent sum of money sitting there. I believe it's around $5 million, give or take. So that money is actually sitting there, and that's waiting for us to come up with some direction with that. And there has been a lot of conversations about maybe putting in some new cottages, or maybe putting up some sort of resort, or maybe even turning it into additional camping area. There's been a lot of conversations, and but that just tells us a little more about the need to actually have that conversation with our community, because in the end, this is actually on the far side of NAWASH, on the north end, and it's quite a beautiful area because it's all along the shoreline. And I think that there's so much potential there. It could be mixed use, you know, there's all sorts of things we could do with it. And, you know, I'm really looking forward to this ECDev Corp actually taking the lead on this and starting those conversations with our community and moving forward with something, because, you know, like I said, it's potential out there. And have had a chance to talk to a few band members, and, you know, they're waiting patiently to start hearing what we're going to do with that property. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor. The final committee that we're going to receive an update from, or portfolio, is the Independent Seniors Portfolio from Councillor Sidney Najwa.
Okay, thank you, Michael. I've never heard of that as being an actual program, but I believe it may be part of the social development. So I've been working with social development for both terms the last 4 years. So under the social development, we have family well-being, the food bank, social services, native child welfare, and the community activator. So with the pandemic, this starting early last spring or whatever, we haven't had any meetings. We're trying to get a meeting together shortly to kind of introduce Darlene Ritchie as the new native child welfare. So before the pandemic happened, we were trying to move native child welfare to customary care, or have customary care homes in the community. So that we had just nicely gotten started, and everything was kind of shut down with the pandemic. So we're hoping to get that revitalized in the very near future, and bring in some consultants to get a customary care program going rather than the native child welfare. So we're looking to Darlene to kind of spearhead that and get it moving again. And hopefully the committee can get together and make some things happen again. It just fell apart with the pandemic, and everything came to a grinding halt. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Now that wraps up the committee presentations that we have available to us with the councillors in attendance. So we're going to turn now to some of the open questions in our Q&A. We also do have some time if you have additional questions that are going to occur to you. You can type those into the Q&A, and we'll try to get to those one at a time. So we'll start at the top of the list, and there's a question from Tina, who asks, will the shore allowances in Owen Sound open up a new legal battle? And I'll invite any councillors who want to opine on this to jump in.
Yeah, so I should probably answer that one, Michael. We're trying to come up with a settlement without the legal battle, but if things take us there, that's we're trying to have a negotiated settlement rather than a legal battle, because of dollars that it costs to have a legal battle. So as long as we can keep the province at the table, then I think we can have a negotiated settlement. So it's going to be another year or two before that actually happens. Just it takes things that long to go through the process. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. The next question comes from Tina again, and this is in the health area. She asks, can we hire a nurse practitioner that actually has clinic days for our people to get medical help on the res? The doctor shortage is an issue in Grey Bruce.
So it was my understanding that there was a nurse practitioner that was coming to the health center prior to the pandemic. So I'm sure that will be revitalized again once it's safe for people to travel in and out of the community.
The other thing I'll add to that, Michael, is that some of the community may or may not know that we do have a community member that is doing her residency in the Grey Bruce area, and I believe has plans to open up a practice here in the community. So we could have a very own doctor from the community with a practice here, and I think that's amazing.
Thank you, Councillor. That would be great news. Our next question comes from Cheryl, who asks, are there plans to review and update Council's agreement with education?
I believe we just passed that, right, Saul?
Yes, we just did. Less than a month ago.
Do you want to tell us a little bit more about that agreement and what the change means to the community?
Okay, I was waiting to hear from Martha, but anyways, I'll take that one because since I'm the liaison for that one. So yeah, we actually did we did have a meeting, and we actually updated the agreement, but it was also just clarifying a lot of where the band council and education kind of meet, and how that decision-making process goes from one to the other. And I found that it worked out really well, because it gives education some the ability to work on its own, but also, council's as I believe for myself, I believe council is just there to see those recommendations and to just help it along, and advise whenever they can. So I see it more as an advisory role, and I think that's what it basically stands for at the moment. And that's my own take on the agreement. Thanks.
Yes, so the memorandum of understanding is what we renewed, and it has to do with the governance and their personnel policies. So we, as a not a standalone, but at arm's length is how education works. So we just renewed that memorandum with them so that they can continue their work without interference. Is a good word that people like to use, so without interference.
Thank you for that, councillors. Our next question comes from Jessica, who asks, where can I find out more about the Nochimuwaning matter? Is there or could there be a written communication on this in the Nawash newsletter? And so I'll answer the second part of that. Of course, that's in my domain, so there could be a written communication on this as soon as the information is gathered and shared from the council. So I'll put that over to the councillors now. Where can members find out more about Nochimuwaning?
Larissa has all the information about Nochimuwaning. Larissa runs the program for. We generally hire at least two young people for surveillance, or maybe it's 4 young people for surveillance over there, and OHT pays for that. The matter that's before us right at the moment is a legal matter, and it's between OHT and the homeowners over there. And so that's kind of a question for legal. I don't know what all can be said about that. That would have to come from legal to answer that. So, but we're quite satisfied that things are well in hand over there, and it's just trying to straighten out some of these legal matters and get the last two properties purchased. They're on a schedule, a time schedule. So I don't know if it's this fall, the last two get, or next spring. So I'm not exactly sure when that purchase will take place, but it is to happen in the very near future. Thank you.
Thank you,
So
Councillor.
this is Solomon. I just wanted to add a little bit to that. So OHT is the Ontario Heritage Trust, and it acts almost as a, correct me if I'm wrong, Sid, but it acts as almost like a partnership. So we're in partnership with OHT, and it's basically to watch over the lands. That's my sense of it. It's for example, to bring it in underneath a shared responsibility to take care of that land. And Nochimawaning is just north of Hope Bay, which is north of Nawash. And that was a traditional area that we used a lot. Well, probably up until maybe 50, 60 years ago. And there's a lot of history there. So that's what I wanted to add to that conversation. Thank you.
So yes, Saul, you're correct in it is a partnership, and we're managing the lands with OHT, and they're holding those lands in trust for us, so that no development can happen anywhere there that hasn't already happened, because we do have two houses that have been built in the area there. So we're just managing what's left of those properties, but they are being held by the trust, and no further development can happen. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. The next question comes from Cheryl, who asks, is there an update on the Bruce to Milton project?
I could provide that. I think what she's asking about maybe is an update to the investigation that based on the news release that was sent out several months ago. I unfortunately won't get into detail other than to let the community know that a forensic auditor has been hired and is continuing the forensic investigation, as well as there's an ongoing criminal investigation with that. And we should be able to provide a more fulsome update in the next month or so. So it's still proceeding.
Thank you, Councillor. The next question comes from Vivian, who asks, what portfolio does the internet fall under?
Ooh, that's for you, Michael.
And the internet services in the community aren't part of a portfolio right now, and I suppose that's a consideration maybe for the council to take up. It could potentially fall under ECTEV, maybe, but for the moment, a lot of the activity around internet service in the community is being handled by me out of the communications department, which is small but growing. It's me. But I'm handling that file right now, and what we're looking at is trying to increase the availability of reliable, fast, and affordable internet in the community, because the council believes that that is a key to not just the economic development, but development in many other areas of life, as internet access is now, for all practical terms, it is a utility, and it's necessary to modern living, and the council wants to make sure that we have equal access here in the community as people do who live in more urban areas. So our next question is from Alexandria. Asks, is it possible to get a quick financial update?
That's a tough one because we're just going through the audit now. It's going to be presented probably at the end of this month for the last 2 years. So we are waiting for that update as much as the community is. So we can't really give you an answer for that right now.
Thank you, Councillor. And the final question we have on our board right now is, can we expect an AGM for the Bruce to Milton? And to be clear for our audience, the Bruce to Milton is managed by the Son Financial Corp, which is the subject of the matter that Councillor Elliott referred to earlier.
Yeah, but that is true. And what I can share is based on conversations with the current president, is that there are there's funding for an AGM. So there are plans in place to communicate more with the community and explain how the arrangement works, how the funds flow back to the community, and so that's all very positive. So yes, you can expect more community engagement I believe on a quarterly basis. So
thank you, Councillor. That wraps up all the questions that we have on our board. So I'd like to thank all our attendees for coming and listening to our councillors. And I would especially like to thank the councillors in attendance, Councillor Sydney Najwan, Councillor Guywaden Elliott, Councillor Solomon King, and Councillor Martha Panonica. We all appreciate your time on an evening.
So just before we sign out, Michael, do we have a count of how many people were logged in on this Zoom? Or
we can say, so the numbers go up and down over the course of the presentation, but we've had about 20 people engaged directly. For those that are listening now, this call, this meeting is being recorded and will be available on our YouTube channel. So those who weren't able to attend will be able to listen in and hear the answers to the questions. They're great questions that people asked.
And there will be a link on the nawash.ca.
Yes, of course. We'll also link it up, but you can find our YouTube channel as well, and previous community meetings are also there for anybody to view and to catch up on.
I just wanted to say thank you, Michael, for providing this opportunity. There's so much more work that council does too that we never got a chance to talk about, especially with the nuclear issues and the TBO, the fisheries committee, the fisheries staff do a lot of work. There's a lot of stuff happening in fisheries that are behind the scenes. So Alex Duncan is there doing his PhD or master's in lake whitefish and the movement of lake trout using acoustic telemetry. So there's all those kind of things, and the staff is trying to get the youth interested in becoming fishermen so that we don't lose that dying art. There's also the Bruce Peninsula National Park Committee that's working on co-management or management of the national park. There's so much more work that can be discussed and that the community needs to know about in light of the election. I'm not running this year, so hopefully we have a chance to, what do you call that, to go along with people that get elected to update them on what we've been working on before we're done. So maybe a week's overlap or something. But also there's the new food bank and cultural center that's being implemented, and there's funding from Coldwater to do that. And also the wage parity that council worked on this year. I think that was much needed for the staff, and the staff do a great job. Without them, we wouldn't be moving forward. And I just want to give a shout out to those staff who put their heart and soul into their work. Miigwech.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Those are great words, and we'll certainly look forward to our next community meeting where we can add in some of those details that you mentioned. So we'll try to get one of those on the books right away. So if we have no more questions and no more comments from any other councillors, is there any final words you want to say to the gang?
This is Solomon. I have a few comments. So I just wanted to follow up on what Martha said. And, you know, as counselor for myself, you know, all the work that I'm a part of, it's the staff that pushes this all forward. And I'm just there to help it along and there to help give a little bit of direction, and I'll also take direction. So, you know, my hat's off to the staff and all the employees that work for NAWASH. And especially, you know, because I work directly with the capital and all the programs that all the departments that are under it, you know, I see all the hard work that they're putting in. And, you know, I just want to give a congratulations to all of them, because, you know, they're the ones that are actually moving the yardstick forward. And I just want to say thanks for all the work that you're doing.
I'd like to echo some of those words as well. I think you know, as a fairly small community, on reserve community, it was nice during this term to see 3 off reserve members, if you want to call them that, myself, Solomon, and Carolyn, be elected to leadership roles in the community. During that time, I did transition back home in a full-time capacity, although it feels like I'm still away because I don't travel into the community because of what's going on with the pandemic. But the odd time, it's nice to run into people on the road. But I'm fairly busy as well because I do work full-time, and I just want others to know that you know, if you're considering running in this election, this upcoming election, that you can do it. You can manage a full-time job. I think, and this is my own personal belief, is that council shouldn't be a full-time position. You know, that's why we have staff. And I know others won't agree with that, but I firmly believe that. I think it's going to take a concerted effort of bringing community members home. So we have that extra help, because we still have a number of vacancies in the community. We have a hard time keeping people once they're hired. But you know, the wage program or parity with you know, what people should be paid is going to make a huge difference. But we can't stop there. I mean, there's other things that we can do, you know, such as a shortened work week, and other incentives such as a more attractive benefits to try and keep people. And you'll notice in some of the recent postings that went out, the wages are high, which is good. And I think I've always advocated that from day one, is that, you know, we've needed to pay people what they're worth. And so those are all very positive things. And I encourage you to reach out to, you know, family that are back home who are thinking about coming home, that things are getting better, you know, with this water treatment plant going in. Soon will be the improvement of the roads. But all this infrastructure that needs to be worked on is going to take, you know, a significant amount of capital. And I think traditionally we've fought with Indigenous Services Canada over money, and we still are over a water treatment plant. But you know, taking charge of our own destiny using an economic development engine or a vehicle, which is close to being finalized, will set us in that direction of generating additional own source revenue on top of what we already have. So we're pretty fortunate to have the resources in the area that we have, and such a vast traditional territory. We just, in my heart, I believe we need more community members to come home and help do some heavy lifting, because it is going to take a huge effort, and with a very positive outcome for the land claim. It's going to be exciting times for my generation and the generation coming up behind me. So miigwech for everyone who attended this session tonight, and look forward to having a few more before the term ends.
Thank you, Councillor. And thank you to all in attendance, guests and speakers as well. And that concludes our meeting for tonight. We're going to sign off, and you can view this online on our YouTube channel, and you have a chance. Good night all.